Welcome to the KMC Collective Podcast, where Tom, Ben, and Cole bring you practical insights, creative ideas, and authentic conversations for children's ministry leaders. Each conversation is packed with strategies to help you lead with clarity, build strong teams, nurture families, and stay healthy in the process. Whether you're planning lessons, training volunteers, or seeking encouragement for the week ahead, this podcast is for you. We hope to make you laugh, cry, think, and maybe a bit of all three in each of our weekly conversations. This is the KMC Collective Podcast. Let's jump into the conversation.
All right, and welcome to another KMC Collective Podcast. I'm Tom.
I'm Cole.
I'm Ben.
All right. Well, hey, this week we're changing things up here at the Collective. We've got a special guest, and if you're watching on the YouTube channel, you can see him. We're going to have somebody new joining the conversation. So, Ben, why don't you do a quick intro of who's on the hot seat tonight?
I would love to. Hey, I've got this guy on my screen is sitting right behind me, underneath me, to the left of me. I don't know what it's going to look like, but this guy right here has been in my life for so many years. I think I met him in 2015 and got the opportunity to be a part of so many events with the Giant Cow Children's Ministry. And I want him to kind of explain what that is, but this ministry has been around for 25 years and has impacted not only corporations, denominations, churches, camps, but they have impacted the lives of so many kids. And just to be able to hear the story of how it came about and the things that they do now is awesome. But before I introduce Stephen Leckenby, or as the Giant Cow kids know him as Mr. Voice, and I'm sure he'll explain that. But I've got a joke for you. It's a cow joke.
Oh, no.
What do you call a cow who can part water?
Cow that can part water.
Moses.
Yes.
Oh, I know.
Moses.
Moses.
Yes.
Very good.
Oh,
Very good.
yes.
Very
That was
good.
that was my Christian cow joke. So
Still got it. So
take it away, Stephen. Tell us who you are. What is the Giant Cow Children's Ministry? Does a cow actually come to your church? Like, give us some of that information and
Eat more
let the
chicken.
world know what is so marvelous about the Giant Cow.
Well, I can answer those questions in no particular order. Depending on the status of my diet, would be determining on whether or not an actual cow shows up. There are a few photos of me on stage that it makes you wonder. It's a good thing I wasn't wearing polka dots or spots or something like that. But Giant Cow Children's Ministries initially was formed right about the turn of the century. Bum, bum, bum. And it was designed to provide kids events for faith-based homeschool conventions. These families were getting together and they're bringing their kids, and there were no kids events. And so it was formed by my predecessors to create content for those events. And that was right around 1999, 2000. And since that time, it's expanded to serve, as you mentioned, denominational events, Christian conferences, and then church camps, VBSs, special events for churches, et cetera, and so on. And I think our shtick is a couple of things. On the logistics side, we really are a turnkey entity. If you want to bring us in just as the show, just as the speakers, we can do that. We can send one person, 2 people, 5 people, or we could bring a team of 12 to 15 and handle all aspects, including all of your actual kid care, kid-facing interaction. We do volunteer recruiting in different regions because we've had an awesome opportunity to connect with young people and families all across the United States and in Canada. And so there's many times we can bring people in to be a part of those events. So whether it's, as we did in Sherman, Texas a couple months ago, a 90-minute kickoff for fall programming, or if it's something we did for the Church of Christ International Gathering in 2022, where we were there for 7 days at the Orlando Convention Center. and all points in between. And as Ben mentioned, we've had a chance to interact with lots of people. One of the coolest things I think about Giant Cow for me personally comes out of when Timothy was speaking about the generational aspect of ministry. And he said, "Thou therefore, my son, be strong in the grace that's in Christ Jesus. The things you've heard of me among many witnesses, the same commit to faithful men who will be able to teach others also." That's 4 generations right in there. And we're already in our 2nd generation of actual on-stage ministers. One of my sidekicks right now, her name's Michaela. She's 20 years old. Michaela's dad was part of founding this ministry before he was even married. I've known him that long. She's since born, grew up attending as a child, and is now one of our touring leaders. We've had, I don't know, Ben, you probably know this number as well as I do. We've had 5 to 8 families that have formed out of this. And by families, I don't mean good buddies or good friends on Facebook. I'm saying they met their future spouse. So, hey, if you're a young person listening and you're called to ministry and you want to find someone else called to ministry, Giant Cow's the place to be.
Who needs a cow or who needs a Cupid when you have a cow?
Yeah.
Cow.
Some people go to Match.com. I just say go to GiantCowKids.com and fill out the volunteer application. And what's really exciting, here's the cool part. Now we actually have some of those couples coming back 2 or 3 times a year and ministering with us. We had some friends of ours, Caleb and Katrina, and they ministered with us, with Ben and I in Dallas this year. And they ministered the first time with us probably 10, 12 years ago. And now they're married. He's a full-time pastor. And he's like, I want to be back on the road with Giant Cow, having an opportunity to impact.
Cool.
So it's a lot of things. Awesome. But the coolest part, I think, is to see kids start out, attend, graduate into leaders, graduate into touring and ministering, taking what was inputted into them at some point in the past and inputting it into others. So giantcowkids.com is where you can find out a lot more about all of that stuff.
Very cool.
So a lot of cool things is this summer I got to tour as Big Kid Ben. For those of you that don't know, I or have listened to past podcasts, I have a daily YouTube channel where I teach kids the Bible in 60 seconds or less. This season, year 3 on YouTube, we're doing some game interactive learning of the Bible. And I got the opportunity to travel with the Giant Cow. And man, it took us to Alaska, Canada, Montana, California, Illinois, Ohio, North Carolina, South Carolina. We're all over the U.S. map or the North America map. And one of the cool things that I took away from that is just the detail in event planning. And I, as a children's pastor for 20 plus years, I'm watching and I'm sitting back looking at all the stuff that goes into it. And if it was me, I would be giving up one, or I would be stressing out to the point where I would need a sabbatical afterwards. Just one event. And one of the things that I know Stephen is so good at is event planning, whether it's a small beginning of a fall festival event to a 7-day, like you're saying, or a 3-day weekend, or hundreds of kids coming through the door. Part of the Southern Baptist Convention, you drop your kids off and there's 600-700 kids running around, from babies all the way to older kids. And there's so much detail in event planning, because he goes in and basically it's a turnkey. You're taking over a conference center. You got to know where all the safety points are, where all the bathrooms are, where you're going to put the name tags, where you're going to have a table to sign in. It's just very detailed. And this guy right here, I don't know how he does it. It's a superpower. But for us in ministry, say I'm coming from a church, I've been a part of a church for 20 years. I know I cannot pull off something of this magnitude because I'm not as organized. But there are churches that have severely organized people that could pull something like this off. When someone's trying to plan an event, give me some of your knowledge or your skills. If somebody's trying to plan an event for your church or your organization, where should I spend most of my time? Because I mean, I know it takes a lot of time to plan a huge event with hundreds of kids. But say I've got a minimal a group of kids or an unknown number of kids coming through the door. What are some things that I need, maybe top 3 or more things that I should focus on as a children's director, children's pastor, or just a volunteer within the local church? Help us, because I know there's a lot of people like me that just aren't that organized. Maybe.
I think you can, for those listening, you can tell how Ben and I, once we kind of figured out our flow, we had a really good back and forth, because I have been accused of words that are close to organized, but it's not that word. I'll let you fill in the blank. And as you heard Ben just mentioned, you might have someone in your church who's severely organized. He literally described it as like a disease of organized. So that's how Ben and I are different, which is really cool. And what's fascinating about that is I think of a time when I was working full-time as a children's pastor, and how I was kind of both. I was the face and the fun, also the organized, but I knew when I needed to lean in to being the face and the fun, I had to hand off that other element.
Yeah.
So I want to start with that part. To your point, I love this. We should hashtag this, severely organized. When you think, and so many of us as KidMin people, we get these great ideas. Sometimes they're a little bit last minute. So this is point number 0. Try not to be last minute. Yeah. Sit down, look at your calendar, be realistic about how many events you can actually pull off in your calendar year successfully, right? Don't put all of your eggs into the VBS basket, because it's those other events outside the expected events that I think are going to have more impact. So when you do that, if you don't already have your severely organized sidekick, go recruit that person. Pause the podcast and go text them right now and just say, you remember that conversation we had? I'd like to talk to you more about what that would look like. So number 1, go find your severely organized sidekick. Now, if you're the person who kind of can do both, that's okay. But as and bigger picture, and of course we can go to Tom on so many of the wide variety of things that he's ministering, not just to kids ministers, but to pastors and others. We all very much know that most senior leaders in a church are filling about 7 more roles than they're supposed to.
Yeah, right.
KidMin is kind of lucky in the fact that there's kind of this expectation that, oh, I think I'm supposed to volunteer with the kids. So lean into that a little bit. Go reach out to those folks and find the ones who you can tell they love kids, but they're kind of like you. The first thing they say to you is, well, I don't know that I could get up in front of kids. I don't know that I could lead motions for a song. I don't know that I could take a job over. And they start telling you all the things that they can't do in KidMin. And then they think, I'm not good for anything in KidMin.
Right.
Hey, would you be able to sit behind my desk and thoroughly receive this information and assign these kids to a group or whatever the need is? So find your severely organized person. I think that is, and I'm going to give Ben some love here. Ben ended up this season a lot of times at the desk as people were arriving. And what was really cool is, and this is a way you can help equip somebody in your group who is either really on the fun side or really on the organized side, how they can kind of cross over a little bit. While Ben did have to do some logistics of maybe selling a ticket, assigning a team, maybe getting some medical info, he used that time to establish relationship with those families, establish relationship with the kids. And he probably was hawking the Big Kid Ben YouTube channel, which was awesome. And we promoted that all year long. There's so many Giant Cow kids on his channel now helping him do videos. It's I think I might have even got on a couple of videos. It's really fun.
Probably.
But make sure that they know, just because they're sitting there, say, if you can sit here, if you can be thorough, be organized, and smile, the parents are going to have a sense of peace of mind that you have got your stuff together. So when they go in and it's a little bit crazy inside, they're like, okay, but I know who the organized person is. Yeah. So that's number 1. Find your severely organized sidekick. And then I think, Ben, you mentioned the idea of numbers. I don't know if I'm going to have 5. Maybe I'll have 50. Maybe I'll have 500. This is the point for me that I have not struggled with. I have had to change my mindset because I found myself ministering different to 5, to 50, or to 500. And just, I think probably this year, there was something that changed in my spirit where I realized God picked those 5. God picked those 50.
Yep.
God picked those 500. Guess what? Maybe what I'm saying has nothing to do with what the kids are going to receive outside of the general concept of them being around some Holy Spirit content. Maybe it's a volunteer who needs to hear this. Maybe it's a parent who needs to hear this. Maybe I'm just simply, when it comes to traveling, maybe I'm here to just encourage the leadership that has brought our team in, encourage the children's pastor, encourage the associate pastor, or the in the trenches volunteers who just need to be recognized. There's all of these reasons as to why we're talking and what's going to be received. So when I'm thinking about it, I would say, because so many times we all do it. It's like, okay, I'm going to do a kids event. How many chairs do I need? How many styrofoam cups do I need? How many gummy bears do I need? How many? And we get really good at that. And we got that dialed in. And then our content is a big wah, wah. And we've all done it. Even if it's with adults. There's been a few sermons I've preached and it was a little bit wah, wah. My object lesson was crush, but my actual message was a challenge. Again, I've watched Ben on stage a lot, right? And I've watched Tom. Folks in the audience, Tom toured with me, went to a couple of events. I met him out of nowhere because Ben introduced me to him. And the next thing he knew, he was in a van driving from Ohio all the way to Arizona and then on stage to preach for 4 or 5 days. And oh, by the way, PT Bump, could you lead some activities? Great. I'm going to go out front and manage registration. So he's been in this as well, right? And it was that being ready always. Okay. Cole, I haven't had a chance. Hair? That's right. It was just from that one event. He's had no grace since then. I haven't had a chance to see Cole minister, so that's on my bucket list, right? But being ready always with that content. And then in Ben, I think the last event we did most recently was in Jackson, Mississippi. And we had 25 to 30 kids. And he can attest to this for me and vice versa. I can attest to this to him. We went as hard as when we had 700 kids in Dallas, Texas at a convention center.
Yeah, that's good.
And you watch their faces, and it's so fascinating. Children's ministers, hear me on this. When your group is small, they notice if you're not giving it your all. When your group is big, you can actually get away with being a little bit slack because there's so much other stuff happening and so much other stuff that their senses are taking in. When it's a small group, that's when you got to go to work. And so we just did an event in near Yosemite National Park, Big Bear, California area. Very challenging group of kids. Not that they didn't want to listen, but in general, this particular group of kids were smart. They came from a church of people who were pretty smart. Silicon Valley, LA, Los Angeles, tech type people. We have another group in the Bay Area that Ben has been around. Very smart children. It's not that they don't want to listen, but the minute we kind of put it on cruise control, their spirits get it. So number one, you got to find your severely organized sidekick. Number two, before you start counting gummy bears, go in and get that content nailed down. And if that means that you have to do less than you'd like to because you have this really great script or you have this really great opportunity, but you're like, I don't have 7 great people that will fill those roles, but I have 3. We had a dramatic production this year. When I first wrote the story, it required 6 to 8 actors. This year we modified it so we could do it with 4. Same exact story. We doubled up on some roles. It was about the prodigal son. I played the son who ran away, and I played the son who stayed at home. One time Ben played the father, and he played a waiter in a restaurant who found out that the prodigal son was out of all of his money, and he threatened him to punch him in the face. So it was pretty awesome. Great
There you go.
parenting. That's right. That's right. But it's going back to say, okay, here's my message. Here is my bare bones, what I can do to do it excellent. Then I start adding. So then the last thing that I would say, since you're wanting to hold me to 3 points, which is good. I'm an Assembly of God pastor's kid, so we were always about the 3 points. By the way, if you ever want to figure out what kind of church you're in without looking at the door, if it's 3 points, it's probably Assembly of God. If it's 7 points, it's probably Southern Baptist. That's literally, I think it's in the doctrinal definition.
And all start with the letter R or something like that, Tom. From last week.
But us Assembly of God people, like, we chatter a lot more, so our 3 points take as long as their more succinct 7 points. I will give them that. But I think once you have those two, you've got your organized person, you've got your message dialed in, then you need to spend a bunch of time putting together your communication plan for your kids, the parents of the kids, the church staff. You go to the leaders in the church and you get them on board, because they don't need another thing to do. But if you can equip them, right? If you're the kid min, you go to your youth pastor. Hey, could you hand these flyers out to your teenagers so they take them home to mom and dad? Because if you give it to the kid, right, half of them never make it out of the parking lot. I don't mean the kids, I mean the flyers. Hopefully the kids got home. But it's this idea of, how do you leverage that? How do you go to the pastor and say, can you give me 5 minutes? But can I do it 3 Sundays in a row? Can I have a table in the lobby? Whatever. And so many churches have this built in, but that's a small percentage. Those are the ones that have that larger budget, and there's only so many of those. And if you're listening, the points are they still matter. Organized, message, and then your communication, even if you're at that massive church. But for most of us, mid-sized church may be a little bit smaller. And so you need to go out and advocate. And it's not that the team on your church, let me try that again, rewind. It's not that the team in your church thinks less of you or your ministry. We got to stop playing the victims, because sometimes we feel like we're getting the crumbs. I would propose it's because we need to ask for what we need to impact those kids. And that communication plan, and you guys know what it is. I got to tell you that, right? You got your socials, and you got your posters, and you got all these other things. Guess what? You're not a graphic designer. There's another person you can recruit. Maybe they don't want to even be in the room, but they love seeing kids impacted, but they will sit behind a computer and bang out graphics all day long.
Mm-hmm.
To get your organized sidekick, severely organized, hashtag severely organized. Then you want to get that message dialed in. Then when you do your communications, all of that is going to be so clear as to what you're saying. And let's be honest, how often do we do those 3 steps backwards? Hey, I got a kids event. Let's put together a brand package. Let's put together a poster. Let's put together some social media. I should probably then figure out what I'm going to say.
It all starts with the logo.
It starts tomorrow.
All starts with the logo.
Don't mute whatever square that's in. Mute that guy. Mute that guy. And then 24 hours before.
I'm so backwards. I always start with a logo. If it looks good, I can mentally get there to mediocre organize it.
It's funny because I'm planning a Christmas event, and I'm meeting with my large group person tomorrow to get the story down so that we can get it out to the right people. So yeah, I'm with Steven on this one, Ben.
Yep. I was gonna say I'm there too. So, Steven,
let me just. I want to say one more thing. As is the case with any structure, you need to take that structure to the Lord and say, okay, God, this is how you designed me.
Mm-hmm.
Ben and I had a conversation, and at one point, and I was like, I almost feel like you and I shouldn't be on stage at the same time because we're so different in how we communicate. Now, cool thing is we started to kind of figure out that flow and kind of giving way to each other, right? We're created so differently, and yet we both minister to kids. So take it before the Lord and say, God, I know this stuff is important, because what you got to do is you got to answer the question, a week after your event is done, how can you as best as possible, spiritually quantify the impact. And the answer to that question should tell you which things not to spend time on until everything else is done, right? And us creative guys, I mean, if you're watching this on video, you can see my background. Clearly, it looks like a TGI Fridays and a NFL shop exploded in my office here, right? So I've got the creative side burning as well, and sometimes those two battle. But let message be the driver for both of them, and then find the best way to get to that end where you have that spiritual payoff. And man, I think God will honor that kind of effort because it's you putting your best at His feet.
That's good. Well, you know,
Thanks,
when
man.
when you're thinking about all this and you get some of that kind of stuff down, one of the areas that I see a lot of leaders struggling with is, and it doesn't matter whether, you know, I've served in really small churches and I've served in very large churches, and the struggle is still there of how do we justify spending the funds to do big events? Are they even, you know, I mean, I've seen people questioning, are they still effective? Should there be something replacing the bigger event because we put thousands of dollars into Bible school and all of this kind of stuff, and sometimes we don't see the return. We don't see new families coming in, or they're there, they use it for the babysitting week or whatever. And which I don't have a problem with, because if I can watch your kid and share Jesus with them, I don't have a problem with that. So it drives me crazy when I hear leaders complaining about that. I'm like, why are you complaining about God bringing you children to share Jesus with? But I understand that there's always the purse holder in the church who's watching all of the different ministries, and they're questioning, is this effective? What can you share with leaders from your experiences planning these kind of things? How do you help them think through casting a vision for investing in kingdom, you know, using the kingdom resources to do these kind of events, like bringing Giant Cow in, or bringing one of the other ministries that we know of in, or like I say, or just doing an over-the-top Bible school kind of thing? Because sometimes the ROI does feel small. And sometimes it feels like it takes forever to see any little thing. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how do we help, one, overcome the poverty mindset that we often struggle with as ministry leaders, but then how do we also cast that vision to our senior leadership, to the person who's writing the checks, and even to our teams, that this is worth investing in because we're seeing results somewhere along the line. How do you help people overcome all those kind of things?
I feel like this should be answered with like a 12-part sermon series over 6 months, with a couple of breaks in between to catch our breath.
You saw how long it took them to do 3 points. Oh,
I know,
right? Lord have mercy on us all. Yeah, it's
be a 4-part podcast.
And then the guy did an altar call on the podcast. It was, I had to like go forward to my phone. It was so weird. Oh man, it's back to what I mentioned earlier about me in my own head, in my own spirit, overcoming the 550 or 500. Return on investment. Tom, you answered your own question. Are we telling them about Jesus? But let me challenge that just a little bit. I appreciate the idea of, if we just say it into the air enough, they're going to absorb it, which is true-ish. But, and this is going to be a little bit of a lateral move before I jump back to the actual question. The thing we should be telling children, and Ben has heard me say this a million times this year, we have to stop putting Jesus and Christianity in this box where it's about behavior. And it's so easy to do that. It's so much easier to just focus on the fruit of the Spirit and the armor of God and the list of stuff, that somehow in the process I don't think we do it on purpose, but we accidentally basically sell an Old Testament God to our children. We kind of forget about this whole concept of grace and forgiveness. And again, my favorite story, the prodigal, where he comes back home and he even repents incorrectly. He even failed in his repentance and was still, like, all the effort was in his father's hands to forgive and to restore. Right. And in the big, in our drama, we have this whole picture of he comes back and the fact that he never washed. We know what the Israeli law and the Jewish code talked about pigs and the uncleanness and all this. So he comes from the pigs to his father, and his father embraces him. Well, what's the principle there? It's being in the presence of the Father makes you clean. So first of all, the investment that we're making needs to be about that. The other things need to be the spokes of the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
How often have you heard people talk about the fruit of the Spirit, but when it really comes down to it, they're really focusing on patience, kindness, and self-control, maybe a little bit of gentleness, right? Because love, joy, peace, I can't control that in a kid, right? It's like they're going to have to interpret that subjectively a little bit. I can control self-control and patience. I can make them do what I want them to do. And we feel like, and we are teaching the truth. It is the truth. But we have to be cautious because many of us sitting around these microphones right now, we grew up that way. Nobody was doing it on purpose, but we got introduced to a Jesus who was so rules-based that we kind of felt like when I became a teenager, I'm like, well, what's the point? I really can't get this right. I'm just going to mail it in until I'm 27 or whatever. And we've seen that happen over and over again. Yeah. So as children's ministers, if you want to say your job, and my challenge to you is help children become Christ-following middle school and high schoolers. Let the youth pastor maintain it. The youth pastor shouldn't have to be teaching them from scratch about a Jesus who forgives them and gives them grace. So that's the investment. So the return, you answered the question, but let's sprinkle in the dollar side, right? You come into a church, you've just got hired to a job. That job has a budget, and the budget is here's what is available for the kid min.
Yep.
Don't start out with, oh, this isn't enough. Oh, whatever. No, you go hard with the resources you've been given. Okay. Because you have to understand that structure. All right. The concept of business and structure and things is pretty biblical, right? The authority structure, all these things. It's not a personal thing. It's not, we don't like kid ministry. By the way, if you're getting interviewed, you might want to ask that question while you're being interviewed. By the way, what do you allocate to kids ministry? What are some of the things that you create budget for, so on and so forth? Because I want to know how to be prepared to best utilize those resources.
Right. In addition, then you need a severely creative volunteer on your team because they're going to be the severely help.
That's right. Severe is good. Severely organized and then severely creative.
Really creative.
But I think what you need to do then is, I promise you, 95% of the time, there's going to be a couple of families in your church who are families of means, who are just waiting for someone to actually have the guts to ask them for a check. They get asked corporately, would you consider, this is our month of 4 sermons about giving, right? Every church is supposed to have 4 sermons about giving, right around your fiscal year or change up, whatever. So we're going to talk about tithing. We're going to talk about whatever. Praise the Lord for those sermons. They're impactful and they remind me every year that I need to stay faithful and that God's blessing follows those things for sure. Planting seed, all that kind of stuff. I agree with it 100%. But there are people who have so much more to give and nobody knows how to ask them for it. I was just at a gala event for the Boys and Girls Club of Snohomish County, which is just north of Seattle where I live. I saw somebody. They got up and they said, by the way, we'd like to recognize tonight a $100,000 donation. It was somebody in the aeronautics industry here in our region. Would anyone else like to join them and be the next $100,000? 5 seconds. Someone raises their hand. Wow. And then they work their way down to like $500. I think they raised about $5 million in like 10 minutes. I'm not saying that's going to necessarily happen, but they got up there and they asked and they pushed. So with love with passion. You get up and you say, Pastor, well, we've already asked him for money for this. We've already asked him for money for that. Okay, I understand. I would like to see if there's someone who is called to give to this kids event. I've had more than one occasion where Giant Cow, in fact, Ben, you may or may not even know this, but the event that we did in Orlando this year, that we had to cut off the attendance because the rooms were quite small, as you may recall. We had to stop receiving kids, which means they weren't able to cover all the cost of their event. At which point they said, that's okay. There's someone in our church who said, hey, when this is over, tell us what the shortfall is. We're going to write you a check.
Nice.
Wow.
And that was
Nice.
So the organization that brought us in was able to then, if you want to say afford us, just cover the cost. Because as you know, we had a lot of cost getting a team from all over the country to Orlando and house them and feed them and be there for 4 or 5 days. It's expensive. So find those people, pray about it. Go under authority, right? Go to your senior pastor, your leadership, and say, I'd like to approach these people, because you might not know that they just confidentially gave 50 grand for new chairs or something like that. I don't know. That's possible. But I think that's the key. Work in the budget. Okay. It's a God thing. God designed this. So he knows what budget you have coming, but then go connect with those people who are just waiting to give. And then just tell them about it. Tell them what happened. Tell them how they had impact. They're yours for life. They won't even give the youth group anymore. No more pizzas for the youth group. It's going to be all gummy bears and pipe cleaners.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Thank you.
Oh, that's good.
Stuff.
That's good. All right. So Stephen, you and I don't know each other as well as you know Tom and Ben. And so I've been listening here, taking it all in, and I've gotten, as one that plans events at our church for kids ministry, I've got notes, and I'm going to come back and re-listen to this podcast because it's some really, really good stuff. But as we're wrapping things up and talking about things, I was thinking, as someone that's in ministry and plans multiple events, what do you do? Because we know how important it is, all the planning on the front end, but you want to have successful events year over year or month after month and that type of thing. What do you do at the end of an event so that you can evaluate it and go, what do I need to learn from? What mistake happened that we should learn from? Or maybe I just want to make it better next time, or, build better for the next event. What are some of your evaluation tools, or what do you do? What do you and your team do to do that type of stuff?
This is what lands at the feet of the main leader. And you got to be willing to get real humble and real vulnerable. And I think the first thing is you get your team. Before you talk to parents, before you talk to kids, anything else, you get your team and you just straight up ask them, how can we improve next time? And then you watch the eyes of your quiet volunteers.
That's good.
You watch them and you wait.
It is.
And Ben knows some of our quiet volunteers, or we have a key sidekick who's a gal, and she's not one to volunteer critique, but she's very aware of what needs to be critiqued. Sometimes we can't even do it in a group. We have to pull her aside individually. Hey, I noticed you kind of weren't feeling that last assembly, or that last this or that, or story or whatever. Tell me what you were thinking. Tell me what you were feeling. So that's really important. And to give them carte blanche and say, if you need to tell me that I said something that didn't fit the message, that was out of line, whatever, just tell me, because I love you and I'm so grateful that you're here. I'll give you an example. We a couple years ago, we did a pretty large event, and one section of the area, a certain age group, we had an issue where a large number of volunteers didn't show up, just completely didn't show up. So it was juggling for the whole event. And somebody, not knowing that we didn't have those volunteers show up, they wrote an email. They were very concerned. And they didn't write it to me. They wrote it to somebody else. I heard about it. I said, can I have that lady's phone number? They're like, what are you talking about? I said, I'm going to tell her thank you, and I'm going to see if she can help. I call her up and I said, I got your email. They forwarded it to me. Silence. He's ready for a fight. I said, there's things that you didn't even see that I've added to your list. Would you be willing to be a part of our event next year? We became best friends. Shortly before the event that she was going to come and be a part of helping us run, her husband passed away. She wasn't able to be at that event. The day of the event, this is 4 weeks after her husband passed away, the day of the event, as we're about to open, I get a text from her. I'm so sorry I couldn't be there. I really wanted to serve with you guys. She's in the midst of one of the most difficult parts of her life, but because we'd established that connection and I just opened it up and I said, it's okay. I don't know everything. So be open, be willing, and go to those people who you know aren't going to be willing to say it unless you create opportunity for them. Obviously, you can do follow-up emails and cards and things of that nature. But I think that I remember Ben talked to me about a camp he went to once, and when he was developing his YouTube channel, and he asked one of the kids' opinions. And the kid was like, I don't like that. So Ben shifted what he did and improved it so it administered to that kid more. Ask your team, your core team, ask some of your 10 and 11-year-olds who their cognitive is a little bit better, and don't give them carte blanche. What did you like about this part of the thing, this part of the show, this part of the activity? See if you can develop a little bit of a pattern. I think it's much more manual. So Cole, you used the word tool. When it comes to KidMin, I think it's really, really, really hard not to gain this information any other way than some of those face-to-face interactions. The thing is, you don't really need a lot of them because you have 2 or 3 kids who say a couple things. And if you find a pattern, I promise you that's what all the kids are thinking.
Yeah.
Maybe they just don't say it. Maybe they are just going to have fun regardless, but deep down in their heart, that's what they're feeling. And then lastly, go shut the door and go look in the mirror. Did I give my all to that message? Did I let something slide because it wasn't my favorite part, whether it's the organizing or the music or the storytelling or the whatever. Well, I like this part, so I really threw myself into that. So I know that's a very non-technical answer, but I really feel like you can save yourself a lot of time and you get a lot more value back. And Ben knows this. We've had talks where I've put it out there and I'm like, hey guys, that wasn't good. None of us think that was good. How do we do better next time? And sometimes then push them a little bit. Hey, no, I feel like you need to say more. Do we need to talk? When we go to Chick-fil-A, go have some of Jesus chicken and talk about this a little bit? Okay, let's do that. So talk to your core, talk to your kids, talk to yourself. Oh my gosh, there was 3 points and I didn't even
there
do
you go.
And they almost rhymed. Close.
Yeah.
Dude, thank you so much for being a part of this, man. I think I got so many notes that I'm going to get and take down from this. I've thoroughly enjoyed being a part of Giant Cow, to see the kids growing, learning, and then to watch families that we've connected year over year that have said their kids can't stop memorizing, like saying the Bible verse, or they desire to get into the Bible more. So it's not just a show that you put on. It literally is a beginning of a foundation of discipleship that without them knowing, you've started something that it's a relationship with Jesus that goes on at their house.
That's good.
Because parents pick them up and the kid can't stop talking, but then it just keeps going and they keep talking about it. And then when that event comes up again next year, they're remembering the Bible verse or they're talking about it again. It just becomes a conversation. And so I've seen that over the past, is it 10 years now?
Pretty close. Yeah.
I'm a huge supporter, like to bring in people or if you want to learn, like I know Giant Cow even trains your team, your leaders, like they do a little bit of everything. And so it's not just, hey, we want to bring in Giant Cow to do an event, but it's, hey, I want to learn, I want to watch, maybe I want to help, and I want to be a part of a life-changing thing. And I think that's what Giant Cow brings to the table. And I've been a part of it for 10 years and I've learned so much. But if I'm going to leave you with one thing, I'm going to leave you with this last cow joke.
No, yes.
This one is for you. This one is for you, Mr. Voice, Stephen Leckenby. What would you call a cow that wears the armor of God?
Hold on. I don't know.
Sirloin. You're welcome.
Oh my. It's so bad.
That's
so bad.
Dead cow.
I've got
so
pages
bad.
and pages of cow jokes, but
Yeah.
we're out of time.
I appreciate you guys. Learn if you want to connect with us. I was just leaving you this. If there's some high-powered Kidmin people who are listening to this, and you want to go do a couple weekends somewhere across North America and really flex your ministry skills, message me. We'll put you on an airplane. I'll talk to Cole and Tom and Ben, see if you're like legit, right? We'll put you on an airplane. You come minister with us. And then if you're interested in Giant Cow coming to your church or helping be a part of your big event, you can actually connect with us at Artist Connection Agency. We're a part of their children's ministry roster, along with Slugs and Bugs, Inflatable Stories, and Yancey. So love to connect with you folks. And Tom, thank you for your faithfulness in just doing this thing and serving children's ministers for so long. You're so much wiser than all of us here. More experienced is what I meant to say. All of that was supposed to be a compliment.
Yeah.
You need to end this now, Tom.
I know. Before anybody else starts to milk this stuff up. Before anybody starts to milk this one.
Oh, Lord. Wait.
Utterly ridiculous.
Yeah. Dare he go further? Yeah, that's a good one. I've never done that one before. That's brand new.
All right. Enough tooting of our own horns. Let's go. That's going to wrap up this week's conversation. And if you want to know, again, more about Giant Cow or getting connected with Stephen, we're going to put links in the show notes, both on our YouTube channel and on our podcast platform where you listen to us. And again, we'd love to serve you. So if there's anything we can do for you, please reach out. Let us know. You can go to kidsministrycollective.com. You can get in contact with Ken, with the whole team. Why did I say Ken? I have no idea.
It's Cole and Ben smashed
Cole and Ben.
Cole and Ben together.
Wow. So anyway, you can go to kidministrycollective.com and see all the things, get all the podcast information. Or if you're looking for deeper community and a place to connect, stretch your leadership, come join kidminplus.net. We'd love to have you in that community. So until next time, friends, I'm Tom.
I'm Cole.
Moo. I'm Ben. And that's Stephen.
Bye.
We're out.
Hey, friend, that wraps up the KMC Collective Podcast for this week. Thanks so much for listening. If today's episode sparked something, an idea, a heartbeat, or a fresh start, drop us a line at tom@tombump.com or reach out on social media. We'd love to hear your story and keep the conversation going. Remember, you're not just doing kids ministry, you're shaping the next generation's faith with intention and care. Be encouraged, be creative, and take a breath. You've got this. Catch you next time on the KMC Collective Podcast.